right. Shall we proceed? Which now I introduce myself. I will be next speaker, and I will talk about the need challenge. Let me share my screen, and then we'll see how all this all works. Okay, yeah, so this is the schedule, and let's see that we can switch over. The need challenge. It's actually some work that I did along with Willem Overkerk and the other guys, Jeroen Hoogstraat and Albert Niehoff from the NoForce team, I would say. And it's all also inspired by work of Albert van der Horst. And the idea is to have a way to load arbitrary force code by just naming what you want, and then be sure that the appropriate code is loaded. And Albert van der Horst has a word want for this for a very long time. But want actually parses the rest of the line for all the words that are spelled out there. And we just wanted a similar functionality that allows us to load a single definition, just have a single name after that. And so we came up with the word need. And now let me explain what need actually is. So let's have a look at the need challenge. There's a GitHub page, and I pasted already, and I will repaste the link after my talk, where we describe what need actually is. So this is how need is supposed to work. So you say need name, and then after that, you are sure that the definition for name is available in your system. So you can start with a small core, where all the words, not all words that are available are loaded. But if you actually want to have something, then you just say need name, need square root, for example, or need floating point, sign calculation or whatever, or need assembler, RISC-V assembler. And then you will be sure after that the appropriate program is loaded in the dictionary, and the following program can make use of it. Now, in the discussion that we had, we found out that there's a lot of ways to implement this. So Willem, for example, he implemented this using source code in the flash of the Raspberry Pi Pico. I did a library many years ago that does conditional compilation to essentially do the same thing. And there are other ways to do it based on source code. And I know that Andrew Reed is supposed to look at specific places in his repository to identify where appropriate definitions can be found. The trick here is that need is only explained how it should work on the top level, how you use it. So need name, and after that, you know the definition of name is loaded in your system, and if not found, you get an error. The challenge now is I ask everyone in the Force community, think about how to do this on your system. And if you have system knowledge, then you can go ahead and implement it in whatever way is appropriate in your system and in your context. If you have a system that has only blocks, well, then go for this. If you have a system that can load from text files, then go ahead, do this, figure it out, build indices or whatever is necessary to do so. And I think every programmer, every Force programmer is supposed to do this. You could just read files, parse them, figure out the section, the snippet, we call it, where the appropriate source code for a word is located. And then you can just evaluate this, for example, to get the definition inside your system. So our experience is that since we started using need, to specify what the prerequisites of our source code is, our force programming became rather different. Instead of thinking about, well, I have to include this file or I have to load that block, we just specify, I want to have this word by saying need word name, and then I can be sure that I can use it afterwards. So that is really nice. And so I ask the community, every one of you, think about that. How would need look in your system? And then submit your ideas. And if you have any implementation to this email address, it actually will reach me, but I can separate all the junk mail from your worthful contributions. Yeah, if you use this email address. And then we can discuss the different approaches in the following meetings, in the Force magazine, and other places to see how this can actually work. So the rest also explains an example, but I want to show you the example as well. So let's see, I have a need implementation for GeForce. I wouldn't go ahead and show the implementation to you, just to show you the surface, because yeah, I don't want to influence you and say, well, this is nice or not. Okay, great, what's happening here? Let's see, I don't understand what's going on here. So let's see, let's try this again. Yeah, so this works. Any control character, strangely enough, went in there. So let's suppose I have an application that uses, wants to use an array. I don't know, I have an implementation of array on my mind, but I don't want to repeat it all the time. I want to put it on a specific place, and then after that, I just want to say I need array. Let's see, if I use array like 5 array A, then GeForce complains I don't have array. Yeah. So, but I know I have a definition of array. So I just say need array, and it says, okay, yeah. And let's see, do I have an array now? Yeah, actually, there is an implementation of array. It's a standard implementation that you might look up in starting force or so. You can use it like this, 5 array A, for example, or test array, maybe like this. Yeah. And then you can say 42, 3 test array store, which stores the value 42 into the third element of this test array. And you can say 3 test array fetch dot. Yeah, so far so good. I do interactive testing and I find out things, or I can say 2 test array off, yeah, to store a 0 in there. And then I can say 2 test array question mark, yeah, to look into the field or the elements 2 of my array. So now I want to do some testing. Yeah, I want to automate that, or I write my application and I want to automate things. So I would like to write tests. I know that John Hayes eventually, at some earlier time, he implemented a test suite, the Hayes tester. I want to use it. Yeah, well, that's great. I say need testing, and this just goes ahead and reads and loads the appropriate test suite. Let's see what is testing. Yeah, it says, aha, this is part of the test suite. Great, and it does, well, testing is actually for writing talking comments inside the tests. But now what I can do is I can say something like maybe 33 test array store, 22 test array store, and 10, 1 test array store. And then let's fetch the values again. 1 test array fetch, 2 test array fetch, and 3 test array fetch should result in 10, 20, 30 if I'm correct. Hopefully, let's see, let's move away this. No, actually, I want to do a closing bracket like this, which should just say okay or signal an error if I did something wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong, so it just says okay. Let's see if I say the expected result would have been 20, 20, 10, then I would get an error, incorrect result, and I get the line. So I do most of the test automation in my system like this. And whenever I need the test suite, I now just say need testing and I'm done. I don't need to remember where I stored it and where it's available, what file to load, or yeah, I just say need and I'm done. Yeah, and if I want to have different assemblers, I would just say on this 8086 based system, I want to have the RISC-V assembler, then I would just say need RISC-V assembler, and then it will load and figure out where it is and make it available to me. So that's for me, this is very beneficial. And I'm convinced that it would be beneficial for you as well. And I'm very eager to learn how you would implement this on your system. Yeah, so that's the challenge. Let's see, we go back to the browser for the challenge and we can pick the Whoopsa. This is always difficult with the Zoom controls in the way. So we go there and eventually I will go to the chat and drop it there. So that's what I want to say. So I'm happy if you can just ask your questions and give some comments on that. So here is the challenge. Great. Thank you very much for listening. Short talk.
Yeah, I'm the original inventor of the idea. And it is actually the same as what Sigmore explained. It is a means of loading blocks.
Well, for you, it's loading blocks. I don't not have any blocks.
Because only if you accept the idea of blocks, you can implement a fine-grained library, and that is this for. Yeah. But the original idea was original. You say 71 load, and you have the fixed point library, and that is one block. The index line of the block begins with fixed point. So instead of what Sigmore does, 71 load, I put a string on the stack, fixed point, and then wanted, one, and then the system looks up the block where fixed point resides and load that. Every word that passes ahead is convenience. The proper way to use include files is quote file quote included, and include file forward or is an convenience. So want fixed point is a convenience and is not the original idea of using blocks. Okay.
So, Albert, thank you very much for your way to implement this. I believe there are at least 10 ways I can think of how to implement it in a different way. I have done 3 of them already. And the challenge is actually to get your inspiration to move forward. Yeah, we always talk about, well, we want libraries. And so let's see how we can actually do this and make these small-scale libraries possible. I don't use any blocks in what you just saw. It's done in a different way. And there are many other ways to do it from what I did. So yeah, Jos, you raised your hand. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Albert.
Well, I wonder, how do you handle one name with 2 different contexts?
Yeah, you have to prepare the context in some way. That's out of the scope of what we have. Yeah, and then after you prepare the context, then the name will be resolved appropriately. So if you have hierarchical names, you have to go into the appropriate namespace, or you have to pre-select some library, but that's out of the scope of the challenge. For a reasonable system, you have to deal with that issue, of course. But I think at that level, our implementations will even more be diverse, and everyone does it differently. I have a word from, for example, to set up the context. So I could say from with a URL, and then I'm doing internet fetches of the source code, or I provide from with a with a path name, and then it sets the context for that. Yeah. So yeah, but the challenge is for the challenge, it's out of scope. We just want to focus on the single word, and let's see what we can do with it. Need word name.
Okay.
Yeah, I have an other answer to this. You should not use this facility for whatever words. You should use it for a coherent block file where the words proper work together. And if that is not the case, you should use files, and you should not abuse the wanted of needed for files, because there are other ways to do that.